You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, hello there. My name is HW, and thank you so much for listening to a very special episode. Episode 50.
I can't believe it.
I can't. My, how far we've come. I can't believe it. 50 episodes of the podcast.
Oh.
We've talked about everything from tone to
Let's hit the high points.
the future.
Yeah.
Tone, the future. My future robot named Duncan.
Okay.
We've talked about, I don't know. Netflix. We talked about, I can't even remember. Just like
Stoogie.
Michael Britt's been on here. This is really...
off to a good start.
It's off to a good start.
If you can still call 50 a start, you know.
I mean, I think we're maybe getting into a groove. Mm-hmm. But we've got a very special guest today. The one and only, the Sooze.
The Sooze. What's
the
up?
Sooze is here.
I'm glad to be here, man.
How have you not been on in the first 50 episodes?
Well, you're blazing through these podcasts.
Actually, you were on an episode, you may not remember, where we tried a Sonic hamburger.
That's right.
I would say the first dozen or so episodes of the podcast were pretty burger heavy.
Yeah, it was
burger heavy content.
I think we actually had a conversation about changing it to HW Knows Food for a while there because, like, do you remember that time that we ate together and you had like about 35 minutes worth of like tasting notes for me? Like we were talking about like there's this restaurant that you go to and it serves the pork this way with like the reduction and like all this stuff. I think you looked up at me like about 20 minutes into that soliloquy and I mean, we're like, you knew you had lost me, you know, because I was just like, kind of blank stares. But yeah, we did that one. What else did we do? I think we did one where we went guitar shopping. Did you ever?
I think we did.
Did that one post with John?
I think
that was the Bluesman Vintage. Mm-hmm. You know, remember you almost bought that that baritone, like
it's still there.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
I mean, how useful is a baritone guitar?
It's expensive.
It was $1,600, but it was $1,600. It was a $1,600 Bluesman Vintage, like handmade in the States. It's a good deal for what it is.
Yeah.
But how useful is a baritone?
I guess it's in comparison to, like my buddy just bought one of those, the Gretsch, like black sparkle jets.
Yeah.
That's a baritone.
Yeah.
And I think he uses it in proportion to what it costs him, which is about $400.
Yeah.
He might use it like once a month in a set or something, you know, or track apart, you know, but the money to usability ratio is, you gotta be careful with those.
You really do. Especially when there are guitars that could be $1,650 that you could use every day all the time.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot in that price range.
Yeah.
That would be really great additions to a repertoire. It's hard to justify. Today's podcast is brought to us by the lovely people at British Audio.
Yeah. Can I say it?
Go ahead.
Best deal in the Kemperverse.
Best deal in the Kemperverse, the Tone Junkie Loaded podcast, available exclusively at British Audio.
Did you say Tone Junkie Loaded podcast?
The Tone Junkie Loaded Kemper, available exclusively at British Audio. Yeah. And they just gave me some good news. People have been buying them.
Really?
Yeah. Which means the podcast can keep going.
It's working.
It's really working.
Yeah. Does that mean they're actually a sponsor now?
I think so.
Like because they're getting business and we're getting...
I think so.
That's amazing.
I mean, it's a real...
It is a great deal, though. I mean, if you're going to get a brand new Kemper...
It's free profiles.
You need to jump into profiles.
Yeah.
500.
I'm just happy that it's around because so many people would message me and go, okay, your video finally convinced me to buy a Kemper.
Right, yeah.
Or, you know, I had one guy just tell me, okay, the Stoogie stuff just finally convinced me to buy a Kemper. Mateus Asado just commented on Stu's stuff and said, it said something like, wow, sounds great. You're one of the few guys I look up to who's
interesting.
Who's got me, I don't know if he said something about a Kemper.
Can you remind me, was Mateus he had a Kemper or was involved somehow with Kemper?
I thought he had a Kemper.
He was in the group for a while on Facebook.
No, that wasn't really him.
That was not him.
No, that was not really Mateus Asado.
This is news to me.
No, there was a fake Mateus Asado guy going around, And I think I sent him some free profiles in case it was Mateus. But no, he had.
I had no idea. What about the guy from Snarky Puppy? Was that guy real?
Oh yeah, Mark Lettieri's
He's
really
in
in the
the
group.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Mark's really in the group. Yeah.
Is Stu G real?
Shout out to Mark Lettieri. Stu G is in the group twice. Once as his Stu G page, once as his personal page.
He's doubled down.
He's really in there.
Yeah. Okay.
He's really in there. Stu's more of an Instagram guy though.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, he's pretty active on Instagram. Enough talking about Stu and British audio and all this stuff. We've got a lot to talk about.
Gosh.
Let's see. It's a different vibe on this podcast because usually we're down here with coffee and it's the morning or midday. Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
It's 9:20 at night. You and me just loaded up on wings.
Oh gosh.
We talked about Teslas and church politics over dinner.
It was delicious.
It was delicious.
Buffalo Wild Wings.
We got to get together more and not do guitar stuff.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think that's right too.
Because a lot of people don't know that this Tone Junkie started right here in this basement.
It did.
Because we were already hanging out.
Yeah.
Doing guitar. I mean, it was like, okay, I met you through John.
Uh-huh.
And we
met. Do you realize we went back tonight to the room we met in?
It's like we're having a little...
It's like full circle.
Reunion.
We didn't sit at the same table, I don't believe. You know what? It makes the story better. They sat us at the same table. At the
same one, in the same positions.
I couldn't believe it.
That was for a fight. I actually met you, because a lot of people say, oh, did you meet John through church or through music or anything like that? I was like, no, I actually met John through...
UFC.
A UFC fight.
UFC fight.
Was it McGregor? Was he up that night?
So this is it. Nobody who even was at that UFC fight was really into UFC. But I'm a big wrestling fan. And Brock Lesnar had gone from WWE back to UFC. Okay. So I wanted to see Lesnar fight. So I told John and Alex, our other friend, I said, we got to go see this fight. And so we went, and that got people hooked on UFC. And ever since then, going and seeing UFC fights at Buffalo Wild Wings has been a kind of a regular thing we do.
Right. And I've been a couple times, but not often because of the wings are great. The fight is sort of brutal.
Right.
You know, but I like McGregor. I'll just watch him do anything. I think he's so funny.
He just retired.
No, I thought he had another fight coming up. Did that already happen?
No, he retired.
Gosh.
He said, I'm retiring.
Which doesn't... I don't know how that works.
Did he just... Or maybe he did that before and then he came back.
Well, he had that fight with a boxer, which was incredible to watch. What was that big fight?
The Mayweather money fight.
That was awesome.
Look, so they called it the money fight, and they fight for the money belt. They're not being coy about what this is about.
Right.
I mean,
it's not stopping anyone from like engaging with it or watching.
Actually, I think McGregor's back. I can't remember. I think he said he was going to retire. So I can't remember. Somebody just retired that I thought was
good for business.
Interesting. Yeah, then you just come out of retirement.
Yeah. So anyway, we met there, you know, and then we just started playing guitar and like in your basement we'd come over and do like, you know.
I was John's friend. You were John's friend.
Yeah, we all play music and we would just have these nights of like playing like incredible amps and like let's try this in stereo. Do you remember that night that we got like that holy grail tone of the Memory Man,
the deluxe Memory Man,
into like the dry out when like the
it was
wet.
It was a Sir Bella, and wasn't it the AC30?
Yeah. Yeah, I went the DAG, one of those.
The DAG, that's what it was. It was the Morgan DAG.
Turned them both up.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all like jaw on the floor, like that sounds incredible.
And it was because that it's basically a wet dry rig.
Yeah.
Where it's where the direct out goes to one, and then the wet goes to the other.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how we had it set up exactly, but one of those amps was
dry. It was so good. It
was...
actually might have been that night where you ended up saying, like, we got to film these. I mean, we're like landing on some killer tones. Right. I think people would enjoy whatever, watching or listening or, you know.
Yeah, we were saying this deluxe Memory Man with these two amps, and maybe it was my Sir Strat at the time. I didn't have a Jam Pro. Or I don't know what guitars I had. You know, I had the PRS and the Sir Strat. I don't know. You had some stuff. Maybe you had a no-caster here. Who knows? But we were like, these are some of the best tones ever. Not just in this room. Just ever.
Just amazing.
Ever. We were like, we got to film this.
We didn't want to keep it to ourselves.
We like to share.
We did. And I thought, in the back of my mind, I thought, no one is going to care about this. Like, we'll do this, like... we'll keep doing this for a couple of weeks, and film a couple, and then you'll get tired of like editing them or just something, and then it'll be a hobby that like, remember that time that we like filmed a couple things?
Yeah.
But golly, look at us now.
Look at us now. 50 episodes in. With a real sponsor.
I mean,
we can call. Okay,
yeah.
Fine. I'm actually glad I have such a good relationship with British Audio because they repaired a preamp for me that I forgot about until like 2 days ago, and I realized it's been there like over 2 months. And
it's long been fixed.
I just remembered it, and I was like, wait a minute. I guess they're not in a rush to get it out of there. I've never got a call about it again. Hopefully
they just reached out and was like, "Do you want this back?"
No, they reached out 2 months ago, and then I went to California after.
Oh, okay.
And then I came back. No, Alyssa was going. I don't remember. We didn't go to California. That was more recent. I can't remember. Anyway, they've had it. I went back and looked at the email that I got about it, and I was like, oh man, that was 2 months ago.
Yeah, I did that with a guitar one time. I dropped a guitar off to my guy that like did setups and repairs and everything like that. And he had it for over a year. Like, I forgot that he had it.
Wow.
And then I got a call that he had moved, like, locations.
I thought you were going to say he died, and they were liquidating.
He did have a heart attack, though. This was back in Fullerton, California. You're right, yeah. But it was just, like, this crazy thing of, like, do you want this back? Like, that'll be $60, It was just like... oh my gosh!
Was that as a storage fee or the fee for labor?
It was just like for the setup.
Yeah.
It felt like a new guitar day. It was like, oh wow, I've always wanted one of these.
Wow. So tell us about. Let's get into the origin story here. Mm-hmm. They've seen the Avengers movie, but now we've got to go back and introduce the characters.
Sure.
Where did the Sooze come from?
Gosh, going back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning. Where were you born?
So I was born in Oakland, California.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know this. See, I'm going to learn stuff here.
Oh, yeah. It's
Oakland, California, not far from HW.
Right, yeah,
born
right there.
in Daly City, California.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Seton Hospital.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Kaiser?
Sure.
Pretty general.
One of those. Kaiser's up there.
Born... to Merle and Margie, my folks, and I've got an older brother. His name is Phil. He's about 3 years older, and so yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area.
Does he go by the Sooze as well?
No, but my dad has a shirt that says the original Sooze that we made for him, kind of a fun. I'm sure he wouldn't mind, or even listen to this podcast. Maybe he will. But it was funny because we got him that shirt and it said the original Sooze on it, and then it said EST 1950. And he opened it up on his birthday or Father's Day or whatever, and he's like, oh my gosh, the original Sooze, like estimated 1950. Yeah, and we were all just like, that's not what that means.
That's not what that means.
Yeah, like all the signs like on houses, like
we're estimating at this point. We believe this was.
I know when you were born. Like, why would I estimate that? Anyway, so so he's been known to be called a Sooze. But yeah, so we lived in the Bay Area. We lived in Fremont for a while.
Yeah.
And then we moved from Fremont over to Livermore, which is known for its windmills.
It is.
Just right on that hill of 580.
Oh, I've been.
So we lived there for basically kind of my whole life up until I moved away to go to college. Mm-hmm. So fond memories of San Francisco.
Wait, so you moved away. Where'd you go to school?
For college. So I went to Azusa Pacific University in LA County.
But then where did your parents go during that time? Were they still in Northern California?
Yeah, they stayed. Yeah. So my dad was a pastor growing up, did music, worship leading, and ended up doing preaching for a while.
What does a Merle worship service sound like? Is it like Hank Marvin on the guitar?
So he didn't really play. Like, he just sang.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a thing in the 90s. Like, do you remember Ron Canoli?
Yeah.
It was, very influenced by that kind of music. And like
Ron Holy Cannoli.
Yeah. Holy Cannoli. Yeah, and so it was, the choir and, like, there'd be orchestra.
Yeah, Yanni.
Times, yeah.
Yeah. Kirk Franklin.
They would throw around terms like a Christmas cantata. Like things
Yes.
like that. This was the environment that I grew up in.
Yeah.
But it was great, actually, growing up in the church and being around music. And I got to know all the musicians.
Sure.
He was a drummer, a little-known fact. Do you know the band Tower of Power?
Yes.
From Oakland.
Yeah.
So he was their original drummer.
Wait, who?
My dad.
What?
Yeah.
Merle?
So he played with those guys in a band called the Motowns in Oakland. And they were at, I don't know where, not Berkeley, but like a school like that in that area. And... and so they had done all these, kind of funk stuff with some R&B thrown in and whatever. And my dad was drumming and all that stuff. And I think the story goes that he maybe accepted the Lord during that time, or sort of made a life change.
Yeah.
And got out of the band when they were writing the song "What Is Hip," which ended up becoming a super smash.
Yeah.
And so as he was leaving, David Garibaldi, came in and, sat at the drums and, they, blew up. So, it was one of those, I don't know if you'd call that a missed opportunity.
So Merle is the original drummer.
Yeah. And he would, later go to fairs, where they'd be playing, and they would, Merle, after the show, they come over and, just remember and reminisce and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was a drummer. So the instrument I actually learned growing up was drums. So I ended up playing drums for worship and would play in his band. So he would lead worship, and I would play drums.
How long is a cantata? And is that tiring on the drums?
By the time I played drums, this was years past cantatas.
Right.
Remember Salty? The singing songbook. Did you ever do anything like that?
No.
Basically, I mean, you can see it in your mind. It's a big blue person wearing a book as an outfit, and it was
Right.
the singing songbook. So we would do those were big hits.
And that's part of the cantata.
That was a musical that we would put on it. Churches did things like that all the time.
They did
back in the 80s and 90s.
They did, because that's what the kids were into.
It left a lasting impression on me.
So when did you start playing the guitar?
So I started, so the funny thing happened in high school, when you're a drummer, you can't just get out your instrument and start playing for girls on the steps at high school, So everyone would get their guitars out and do all these cool things, and it's I would have my sticks,
Right.
And so basically at that point I went to the local music store and I saved up $99 to buy the Sunburst acoustic that was in the window, and I bought it and I brought it home.
What was the make?
I think it was an EKO, an Echo.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I bought that guitar, brought it home, and was okay. The first song I ever learned was Jesus Freak, DC Talk, and I learned it flat on my lap, like it was a lap steel, and I played it with my thumb.
Why?
I don't really know why. But I have vivid memories.
Did you think that's how the guitar was played?
It seemed like an easy way to learn where the frets were, because I would just take my thumb and put it on the different frets and pick it with my finger. So dun 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 dun, and that was I play guitar now.
Yeah,
what
that
my
is
dad
so
thought
strange.
At that point, I wish I could go back.
Of course,
son. What are you doing?
Son, you've seen a guitar,
right? Being in bands, playing drums, just play like they play,
So so you eventually picked it up?
So the guitar player in our band, we had a little band, at the time, he would teach me chords, so all of a sudden I'm starting this little transition from I play drums, I enjoy drums, I play at my church, play in this band.
Right.
To picking up chords, or songs we wrote, I would be how do you play that on the guitar? So I could play it on drums, but then I also learned it on guitar. And so at that point, when I went to college, that was all through high school. When I went to go to Azusa, I auditioned to play drums, and got in as a worship drummer, and did some tours as a drummer and the whole thing. But then this one year, they said that the guitar player was leaving our school, and so we had a full band with no guitar player.
Right.
And they said, we know other drummers. We can get our buddy to play drums. could you play guitar instead? Like, could you transition over? So, like, to me, it was like, I just want to be in the band.
Right,
like,
right.
you tell me what you need most. Like,
Right.
well, we need a guitar player.
And then Nick Fury walked in.
Yeah, and like there he is.
Said, Sooze, I want to talk to you about joining the Avengers Initiative.
Right. And that's when my life took a crazy turn.
Yeah.
Not about music at all, really. That's a whole nother podcast. Yeah, and so at that point, I mean, I sold my drum gear, bought some guitar stuff, basically spent all summer long trying to, figure out not only how to play guitar, but like worship guitar. Like that was really like listening.
So what was your first amp?
My first amp was a Crate Vintage 50.
Yeah.
Are you aware? Super
310
heavy.
or 115 or 212?
212.
Okay.
Had the black like grate on the front, and
I'm familiar. I had one of those.
Yeah. Tube. I mean, it's pretty cool, Actually, I take that back. I had a DOD, like a purple amp before that was, I think, solid state. Had like effects like built into it.
Yeah,
I'm not counting that. My first like legit amp
Your
was
first amp,
oh, yeah, with tubes in it.
First electric guitar. It was a Sir, wasn't it?
It was a Sir. But my second. Okay, did you ever go to a store called Starving Musician?
Yeah.
In San Jose.
Yeah. San Jose. They had one in Berkeley.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a couple. Yeah.
So I remember because I had that acoustic guitar, and so my dad said, all these funny stories are coming back to my mind. So like I remember thinking in the JCPenney catalog, when that would come, like you go straight to the back and look at all the toys.
Yeah.
They had a guitar in there that had a speaker
built into
it, and I thought like that was like the end all, like coolest thing ever. Like that you wouldn't need an amp. You could deliver all your tones like, and it had a volume, it had some gain. Like it was just like.
It's perfect.
It's built in, yeah.
Right.
And so I begged my parents for that guitar, and I always got video games and like everything but that guitar.
Right.
So I bugged them, and they said, "Why don't we go to a legit music store?" I had no idea, like let's just get you a electric guitar and a cable.
We have to profile that guitar with
and
an
amp. Yeah, it was
and this little DOD amp.
Right, dude. If I could find that amp, I would profile that. It would be my packs would be the 3015, the Morgan, and the DOD. Like those would be my 3 packs. Gracious. Yeah. So anyway, it was an Ibanez like starter pack. It was like a red Ibanez with a cable and then a little amplifier and like a strap for like $219. It was like the whole thing. So I played that guitar for years before,
You sell it at some point.
I bought my next one was like a bright yellow like Stratocaster.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like, well, this is it.
This is it.
I got my red Ibanez with a bolt on the headstock.
Yeah.
And my yellow Strat. Yeah.
I remember getting a double fat Strat. A Strat with 2 humbuckers.
2 humbuckers, yeah.
And I remember learning to play things like what's the song? My Name is Jonas.
Yeah, Weezer.
Yeah. And like maybe I don't know, maybe I learned Come As You Are by Nirvana.
Okay.
And maybe an Offspring song or something. And
90s radio
thinking
hits.
That was it.
Oh,
this is it.
Yeah.
I've got a Strat, but it's got humbuckers. That makes it even cooler.
Like I can sweeten it up, but I can also rock out.
Yeah, and I can learn all the. Oh yeah, I know these songs.
I remember I had intense buyer's remorse after bringing that Strat home and telling my parents like I got the wrong guitar. I don't like it. It didn't sound like it did in the store. Like I just remember like really struggling at like 16.
Yeah.
That I had gotten the wrong guitar. Like what do I do now? Little did I know that at 37, I would still have these thoughts.
Right.
Is this the right guitar for me?
You never escape them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is funny. We always do have those thoughts. We never really shake them. Do we ever get to a place like I think of, like I was just talking with somebody on the phone, and guy from the Kemper group, Kemper PNW group, and we were talking, and Tommy came up, and we were like, "What is going on with Tommy? Is he coming back?
Right.
How long is this going to take? But isn't that just true of all of us? I feel like in some way Tommy's just gutsy enough to follow these little impulses that maybe the rest of us are like, no, but well.
It is funny. I have a couple people in my life that I have like some social anxiety around. That like if I get something, like, will they think it's cool?
Yeah.
Like you and John are like not like that, you know. But like there's some people that are like. Most of my friends, you know, are like down with the Kemper, but there's a couple people are like still playing that thing, huh? Like not going back to tubes or, you know, like you moved to Nashville and like, you know, don't care about tone anymore. Like, what,
right.
You know, so
you just give up.
There's a little bit of like a, you know, what will people think if I get this, like, you know, fill in the blank piece of gear, you know? But it's, I mean, Tommy is just chasing his own heart, you know, with all
and maybe his own tail. In his own
yeah, well,
there's a bit of like circular coming back to things. I feel like
when you flip a guitar before you've even received the guitar, that's when you know that there's some issues going on.
One thing I think that I wonder if he's realized, there is a kind of a common thread among these amplifiers that he's gotten. They're all lower wattage. They all tend to be EL84 or 6V6. So he does like, I think, the compression that comes along with a smaller power section, and just a lower wattage kind of amp. I've never seen him go to a full 100 watt. I've never seen him go like, HW, this plexi is the thing, or this Sir PT100.
Just like, give him a couple more weeks.
Yeah, Carmen Gia, AC30s. Dr. Z, you know, Benson, which those Benson amps are
dude, no joke. I've been trying to get my other friends to buy them just so I can like be around them more, you know. I went and played a Monarch at like a local dealer in town. And just, you know, when we profiled it, like, you know, it's in the other room, it's mic'd up, like all this stuff. But like the visceral experience of like sitting in front of it and plugging into it and just like cranking out chords, I was like, this may be like one of the best amps I've ever heard.
I remember, and it's been a while since I played a Monarch, but I remember thinking, I like this Chimera a lot, but it was 212. And I remember thinking, if I was going to have an amp at this point and keep an amp around, this Monarch would be one of them. Now, at the time, I wasn't using the amp, and it was too expensive to keep around to justify, because I had some other amps that I didn't want to sell. I didn't want to sell my Sir Bella. I didn't want to sell the AC30. I hadn't come to the realization that I was never going to use these again in the way they were intended.
Right.
I was going to plug them in, and maybe we would plug in a deluxe memory man to both of them, but I was never going to use them again,
right?
Because the Kemper was spoiling me. You know, it's funny. Stu G just called me. And he said, "You know, I'm really liking these. I'm really liking the what did he say? I'm using these. Well, I can read it.
It's the wording.
I want to get it right. I don't want to misquote him.
Sure.
But now at this point, I'm just reading his texts on the podcast, which I'm sure is equally as rude. But hang on. Oh, wait, did I miss his name? Here we go. He said, you know, he's using some real amps. And he said, but I'm struggling to get the sound right. It took way longer to get where I was happy. Now I'm wondering if I should investigate a stereo power amp and speakers to go with the Kemper. See, he's been doing the Kemper, and now they're going on this Newsboys tour where he's been using the Kemper with Michael W. Smith in the Surrounded tour, where they do the small stage and the crowd surrounds them. And they were doing the big stage and then the B stage thing. And because of the B stage thing, it was like the Kemper just makes sense. I can't bring an amp over here. And then it was like, and then they did that for a little while. And then it was like, I'll just use the Kemper on both because I love the sound I'm getting. The Kemper sound guy loves it. And now it's Michael W. Smith and the Newsboys. And he's got the guys in the Newsboys are doing big amps. So he's like, so I need an amp on stage because he's got to play the Newsboys songs with them. And now it's the thing of going back to a tube amp, and it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound quite as good because it's not my amps. Like I'm not bringing my AC30 and my Park. I'm using other stuff, right? Great stuff, but it's just different, right? And then things move around night to night and stuff. So now he's like, maybe I should get a stereo power amp and some. And I was telling him,
makes sense.
You could get a Mission 412.
Yeah.
You know, the ones with the blank speaker kind of things, or you could wait
Stereo.
for and a power amp that would work. You know, that would totally work. It's funny how I prefer the Kemper now over a real amp.
Yeah.
Because now it's almost like my pedal board is in the Kemper too, because I can get so used to those effects.
Oh yeah.
And I have them all dialed in, and now I can't. You know, I have to go build a pedal board too.
I don't know if I told you that experience where I flew out to a conference in Arizona.
Yeah.
And our drummer, who also has incredible electric guitar gear, was like, "Hey, I'll just bring you a rig, so you don't have to fly out with anything." I was like, "Oh, that's great." So he had, like a Nash Telly and a Duo Jet and like a loaded pedal board. It was awesome. And I thought about flying out with the Kemper, just the Kemper. But then I said, hey, just, bring an amp. So he brought a Divided by 13 JRT 915.
Which we're going to profile very soon.
It's a wonderful amp.
My buddy's got a JRT, and I've got a CJ11 that's been collecting dust in this room over here.
FTR? Also somewhere?
I should get one.
I'm excited for the Divided amps are great, right?
Do you know anybody who owns any other Divideds in town?
I'll ask around.
I just need it for a day.
That's how long it takes. So I'm at this gig.
Unless it's really hard to dial in. Some amps you got to get to know.
Right.
I thought the Divided stuff that I've played has all been relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It could be different.
So I plug in all the stuff, and fire it up, put my ears in, and start playing. And right away, I'm like, this is a struggle. Like, this doesn't sound right. It's like I went back there and moved the mic around.
What were you doing with your pedal board?
Like, what was I using?
Yeah. It was your board, or
no,
it was
his. Everything was his. But it was like Timeline to me. It was like my board,
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the issue was the amp. Like, I was, like, trying to get this amp to sound right with a 57 on it and, like, trying to, in through the ears and all this stuff. And I couldn't, like, stop thinking we would be done with this if this was the Kemper, because part of the thing, too, is, like, if you get now, like, I've made that flip where it's like if I get to a gig and have to play an amp, I'm hoping I can dial it in to sound good. That's completely gone with the Kemper.
Right.
Like, I'm going to plug into it, and I can think about playing. I think about the set. Like, I don't have to ever think, gosh, I hope I can get a starting tone that I'm happy with. You know what I mean? Like, that's gone,
Hope the guitar sounds good tonight.
Yeah.
Hope the tone's right tonight.
Yeah. And the other gig that I did, I think it was over last summer, it was me playing a Kemper remote only. And then the other guy playing, like, a nice Elliott with a huge board into two, like, great amps.
Yeah.
And we played for a week long, and the whole week he was saying, like, how do I get that tone about my rig?
Yeah.
And it was like this kind of this backwards conversation of, like, actually you brought up something in a recent podcast that I had some thoughts on, so I'm glad we're here.
Yeah.
You never came out and really said this, but I felt like this is where you were headed, was so far all we've been asking of the Kemper is to sound like amps. Like, can we get this box to recreate amp tones that we already had and no more?
Yeah.
And so my response to that is that's assuming that amp tone, it can't get better than that. Like, that cannot be improved upon,
Right.
And so now I'm at the point now where it's like, can we be asking different questions about the Kemper? Not, can you just reproduce these amp tones, but take them further, right, than they ever could have gone, And I'm actually happier now.
100%.
Not because it recreated, but because it actually made new tones for me, which I'm happier with.
I've got two examples running through my head. The Volante. Can you, on a traditional tape machine, mute the first repeat and only play the subsequent feedback? Or can you only play the first repeat of some heads and mute the rest of the feedback of the other heads?
Put some on the left, put some on the right.
You can't do that stuff. The Volante is taking inspiration from the past and sort of the quirkiness and the musicality. It's interesting. It's taking some of the limitations of the gear from the past, which may have been responsible for a lot of creativity because it pushes the user one direction, right? It pushes us towards something that we're familiar with, so we don't have option paralysis, right? It's not like, here is a Kemper, It's a 10,000 band EQ. You can make it sound like anything. Okay, but how? We would spend the next 10 years arguing about how. How do you low cut? How do you high cut? These are a lot of the things I see. Honestly, this is one problem with the Helix. And I don't mean to get on the Helix.
No.
I've really grown in appreciation of the Helix doing it, but I can't tell you how counterproductive. I will say this. Being very involved in the Kemper community and very involved in the Helix community. This will be my only criticism of the Helix community for the night. It's not the Helix community's fault. It's the design of the Helix makes it difficult to build community and go anywhere else when new people entering the community all have to ask the same questions over and over and over and over and over again. Now, that might be true for the Kemper to a degree, but when you have to keep asking, what's the best this? What's the best this? What's the best this? It starts to become like, if I were to design the Helix again, how could we give the users less options to get started and then give them access to all the options?
Right.
And I think in a way, one of the things that I like about the Kemper is that here is a profile, enjoy. And it has all these parameters sort of put in. Now, of course, there's presets like that in the Helix, but it's just so much more of the Helix is asking you to tweak it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't appear to me to be doing the really great thing the Volante is doing, in that it's taking inspiration from these other things and giving you more options than you had, but really just pushing you towards tone that's inspiring, creative. And it's really easy in big systems like the Helix, like Axe, not just Helix, like Bias 2. When there's too many options, where do you go from there? It's too much. Like, it's really hard.
There's a lot to overcome.
It's a ton to overcome, and a ton to go like, are you happy with the sound? Well, yeah, I am, but I haven't explored all of it, so I'm really not even sure if I'm completely happy yet. I haven't gotten into it all. But at the same time, like, digital gives us unending possibility, where once we are so familiar, like, there's a lot of things I wish the Kemper had right now. I wish the Kemper was giving me more control over the signal chain. And I know that it's software based, it can do that. The only problem is they've locked us into this sort of signal chain that's represented on the front, which is why, to me, Kemper 2 is not going to be an improvement on the technology. Kemper 2 is going to be Kemper 1 that I can move stuff around. Kemper 2 is going to be Kemper 1 that I can run 2 amps in 2 different blocks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it might have a different screen and a floorboard thing. But the technology hasn't been beaten yet.
Right.
Maybe Axe 3. People who have an Axe 3 say it's better. I don't have an Axe 3.
I haven't played one.
I'd love to get one. I'm probably going to get one eventually, but I'm in no rush.
I believe it.
But yeah, man, it's interesting. Where do we go? Like, how far do you push in? Like, this is my real thing. If we could profile an amp, why can't we have profiled the pieces? And why can't I literally just do kind of what I think the Helix flirts with, but is not known as the main thing in the Helix, which the Helix gives you preamps separate from the amplifiers themselves. So there's no separate power amp. But what if we could just take classic preamps and classic power amps and swap them out? What if we could change tubes in a digital environment in a way that is really like true to sort of how it would react in the real world? We could be building digital circuits that would be maybe even possible in the real world, but maybe wouldn't be practical. You know, we could build an amp with 4 preamps in the same power amp, but it's also a stereo power amp, and at the switch of a button, you could switch to a different preamp.
You become kind of like a amp builder at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I've always liked this. I'm going to put them together.
You could send all your repeats through a different tube set or a different circuit than you send your other stuff through. Or you could send it to different speaker emulations, before you hit up anything. I mean, you could be building rigs that are just entirely ridiculous in real life. Not even the Edge would touch this stuff. But you could be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's building on amps that exist. Basically, we've stalled out at recreating it.
Yeah, like using, but I'm saying like go further.
Yeah.
Let them sound like anything. Like tweak it. Like what if 6v6s had more headroom? What if we could add negative feedback? What if we could add direct mix in to a different part of the circuit? That's where I go with the amp builders, where I'm like, all the stuff that could be done. The stuff you're doing. Like where could we put it? The definition control, I have it on good authority, is really measuring the amount of bass going into the gain stage. That's why it's brighter, higher, and deeper, lower. Yeah. Because that's something that you do when you add gain to an amp. You dump bass before. So you get more defined tones by dumping the bass first. How much low end are you sending in? That's really what the definition control is kind of controlling. Not so much brightness, but how much low frequency is going in before the gain stage. And then that affects what comes out of the gain stage. You know what I'm saying? Like frequencies are going to be created in the gain stage.
So when you turn up the definition control, you're like less bass is going into the gain stage.
Dumping bass before that signal gets into the quote-unquote gain stage.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly what's going on. That's Michael Britt's theory. I got to give props to him. He said it on this podcast, so I can't. I don't want to take credit for it, but I can't take credit for it. But he said it here on this podcast that he's pretty sure that's what it's doing, because amp makers would do that. Like that's how you would get get a tone similar to that. But at the same time, we've never seen an analog variable bass control before a gain stage like that. Like makers do it. Like Friedman has to, before gain stages, dump low end, or else you'll just get this muddy, crazy mess, because each gain stage is going to add so much low end in. It's going to amplify low end, create low end, right? So you don't want a ton. So, and if you're Dave Friedman, like I think the challenge is, how do I get even more gain, and it still be a musical tone? And like you listen to BE 100, and it's like amazing how much gain is on. You're like, I couldn't even. Your ears are hearing this amount of gain that you're like, I didn't fathom this amount of gain before. I've never heard this. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Well, I mean, I was kind of just going through these different experiences gigging with the Kemper, and just really comparing it to my own experience of using a Kemper and a real amp. And then it was so interesting, like side by side with a rig that was, should have been brilliant sounding, and probably was, like sitting in front of it.
Right.
But translating through the front of house and translating through the ears.
What amp did you say it was?
I can't really remember. I know maybe
it was a JRT, you said, right?
It was the one I played.
Yeah.
The one this other guy was playing, there was 2 amps and he was running them in stereo, and it should have. I took my ears out and listened to the amps. I was like, this sounds incredible. But by the time we put our ears in and we listened out to front of house or whatever, even the sound guy was going back and forth with him about how, can you do this? Can you do this? And then after the thing, he was like, you don't got to do anything. All yours is great. So it's just this like side-by-side comparison where people go like, how could you play the Kemper? It's like, how could you not at this point?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to deal with all that.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to play and like show up and have him be like, thumbs up.
Yeah. There we go.
And I think that's what we're hearing from Stu is like, front of house guys happy as can be,
I can honestly tell you, now I haven't played a ton of places in the past 2 years. I've played my church mostly. I've played a couple other places. I've played a couple different churches. I've played like 2 outside of church things. I haven't once had a sound guy since then tell me to do anything to the EQ. And not until you just said that did I realize that used to be a common occurrence.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I haven't had anybody even say that to me.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't, now maybe it's because they're just handling it on their end.
Right.
But I'll tell you something that's interesting now. The other day we were talking, my church is building another church, right? They're building a bigger building. And we were talking about Kempers, and this guy who's going to play, I guess this week, new guy to the team, he came and he was like, hey, I'm playing first time next week. And I was like, oh yeah, great, And I've met him before, and he was at like some, worship team events and stuff. So we had all met him, and nice guy. He was like, okay, so next week, where do I put my amp? And I was like, oh, well, behind the stage, there's a room there. And he was like, okay. And I was like, I guess there's a mic. Is there, hey, so-and-so sound guy, is there a mic backstage? He's like, I'll make sure there is one. And then it hit me. I was like, 2 years ago, I showed up here and there were 2 amps back there with mics set up. And then I started bringing my Kemper, and I used to have to go unplug the XLR and from the stage and bypass the direct box. And now that I've converted everyone at my church to Kempers, literally all the players have Kempers, all the producers who go there have Kempers. We don't even know where the mics are for the amps.
It's the amp that's the odd man out.
Guy who's coming is like, what? How do I hook this amp up? And everyone's like, I guess we have to run an XLR to that amp room.
Right. What year is this?
And then you go in there and there's like, clearly they built boxes for the amps that haven't been used.
The whole thing is very intriguing to me, you know, and I know you've done a lot of talking about, you know, it's not just you just did about the Volante. It's not just an amp sounds that this is happening, where digital is starting to, you know, not just compete with analog, but actually surpass it in ways that, you know, we always want analog to be matched by digital, but now that, you know, that conversation is now becoming like, what if it wasn't just matched?
Yeah.
Like,
what if it's better?
Would you allow, like, in your brain for it to be even better? You know,
I went and drove the Model 3 today. I told you about this.
Yeah.
I drove the Model 3. I got on the freeway and gunned it. Fastest car I've ever been in. There's no changing gears. There's no nothing. The guy warned me before I got in. He said, listen, have you ever driven one of these? I said, no. He said, okay, just listen. It just goes. It takes off. There's no waiting. It just 0 to 60. It just accelerates.
Yeah.
I go, yeah. I go, okay. He's like, no. If you've only driven an internal combustion engine car, you don't know what it feels like to just accelerate.
Right.
Because that's not how a car accelerates, right?
How many times has he had that conversation?
Right.
I was like, no, I'm good. Like,
but yeah. But like, it's doing something better.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not is really more a function of what you're used to. The other thing they have in the car is, I was telling you about the creep control. Because I told the guy was like, now listen, the creep is on. I said, what's that mean? He said, you know how in an internal combustion engine car, when you take your foot off the gas and off the brake, your car will just roll forward. It'll creep forward because the engine can't stop. So it's pushing, right? He's like, so you'll coast forward. He's like, in this car, you won't coast. So you can turn creep on and the car will coast a little bit for you. So you feel like you're back in an internal combustion engine car.
For your benefit.
And he's like, just know that because people like it so you don't roll backwards downhill or whatever. But I thought one of these, it's a better technology, right? When you don't press the gas, you know what happens? You don't go forward.
Accelerate.
There you go. Yeah. You don't go forward. That's how it should run, right?
Right.
That's how it should be, right? And this Tesla does that. A normal car doesn't do that. An internal combustion engine car doesn't do that. An internal combustion engine car can't accelerate the way the Tesla accelerates, and it can't be as fast. My buddy has a Mustang that he's super proud of. He's souped it up and everything. I told him I'm going to go drive the Model 3. He's like, the Model 3 is faster than my car. And I was like, really? And it's like a bright red thing. He's like, yeah. He's like, it's faster than this car, this car, this car, this car. Naming all these cars. I believe it's under 4 seconds, like 3.5 seconds, 0 to 60. I mean, it's fast. Yeah. And then in ludicrous mode, now the Model 3 doesn't have ludicrous mode, but if you buy a Model X or S and you have ludicrous mode, you pay, I don't know, whatever the money is for ludicrous mode. It's like $20,000 on the Model X for ludicrous mode.
Lands.
It makes it as fast as like a Lamborghini.
Wow.
The amount of cars, I think I heard someone say it was something like there's 5 or something cars in the world that are faster than a Tesla Model X with ludicrous mode. Like 5 cars in the world.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like these are some Lamborghini, but not all Lamborghinis, some Ferrari, some like the fastest cars that we've ever made. And it's a minivan. I mean, it's not a minivan, but it's supposed to be like their answer to a family vehicle.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Okay. All that to say, there's so many times technology improves stuff, But because we're not used to it, we don't see it as an improvement. And the people who see it as an improvement are the people who were never conditioned by the first thing that wasn't as good. Right?
Yeah.
I've talked about on this podcast all the futuristic stuff coming. I don't know if you listened to the last one. You said you had started it. Our parents didn't want to get in cars with strangers because you could get killed.
Right.
Even though statistically you weren't going to get killed, nobody was getting killed.
Yeah.
People hitchhiked and blah blah blah. It wasn't until, but now we didn't have that experience of why would you ever get in a car with strangers? We had a different experience of, no, there's a rating system. Just send a stranger so I can get in their car and they'll drive me around. So to us, that's normal. So we're not going to avoid strangers in the car. To us though, it's crazy that a stranger would come in your house, right? When you're not home. But my kids will let some sort of a robot or drone or person come in their house and restock their refrigerator and put their stuff inside rather than leaving it like animals in front of the doorway to get stolen, right? This is the dumb thing that we can't get past. We're delivering it all the way from across the world to your front door. We're acting like this is a barrier we can't cross. Let me just get inside. Let me help you out here, right? And there's all sorts of ways to do that safely. We are never going to adapt to that because that's too much for us. But the people after us will.
Sure.
There's a time coming when the idea that digital is not as good as analog in the guitar tone world will not even be a populist opinion. And then it really won't even be an opinion. And tube amps will be they will be the vinyl records of today. We all know it sounds better.
Right.
But who's going to go through all that? It's just not important enough. You know? Vinyl sounds great. You could rig up, you can get Macintosh big tube power amps and these great speakers and it'll sound like you're there. Yeah, but I'm just going to stream it on Apple Music.
Right. I've got Spotify on my phone.
Because the world has spoken.
Yeah.
Ease of use, convenience, is more important to all of us than ever before. We all are prioritizing that. When we stand there with an Uber and we hit the button and 5 cabs go by us, it's proof that even if it's not faster, it'd be faster to get in a cab and go,
it's
right?
there.
It's just, but this is what we value. We value the ease of use, the time, right? Digital will win because it's easier. Tubes don't blow up. You don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to play someone else's rig because it's difficult to travel with a rig. You know, you could have just brought your USB stick.
Yeah,
it could literally be on your keychain.
Sure,
you could have sent him the files if he had a Kemper, or you could bring the Kemper even.
Yeah,
or you could bring your HX Stomp.
Yeah,
how you been liking that lately?
The Stomp. So here's where I'm at on the amps, and I think you might have said this recently. I think that I've played amps on the Stomp that sound as good as the amps on the Kemper, but the amount of amps that fit that description are 3. You know,
I 100% agree with you.
So it's I gotta get lucky, but if I get lucky, it's oh, I like this. You know, and so compare that to the Kemper. Lately I've been doing a lot of these, I post my top 30, rigs for a certain guitar. That's my style right now is I pick, profiles per guitar. I just like doing that. I think that's what I would do with the amps if I had all the amps.
Yeah.
What amp prefers that guitar and vice versa.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can't get it lower than 60 profiles. And I'm every one of these I would play with for the rest of my life.
You just put out a list of 60 profiles. Was it 60?
It was 30
profiles.
But,
and before that, you were doing 15,
It took me
20,
2 days to pare that down because I'm sitting there going man, I'm happy with every one of these things, from Sail of Sounds to Tone Junkie to Brian Carl and Michael Britt. They all sound incredible. How do I decide? It's literally the exact opposite. When I go through the Stomp, I'm that doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound good. I don't like that at all. oh, that's good. What is that? Oh, it's the Matchless Channel 2, you know?
Yeah.
And I keep going. I go, wow, I better go back to the Matchless. So that's a bummer for me, you know, is to be kind of locked into like, I like this, but I don't like these other 30. I like this other one, and that's about it. So having said that, so I've got mine on my board, and I pared down. I used to have a PT2, so now I'm on a junior, and I just have my MS3 and the Benson preamp, the Stomp, Volante, and Ventress. Like that's the whole board.
Okay.
You know, so it's basically one overdrive, one delay, one verb.
Wait, how many pedals are digital and how many are analog on that board you just described?
4 are digital.
And 2 are
and
analog?
1 is analog.
1 is analog.
Yeah. I mean, they're all supercomputers.
Right.
With a Benson preamp.
Right,
like sitting right next to all them.
Did you say the Timmy's on there?
No.
No, just the Benson preamp.
Yeah. And, you know, the MS3 and the Stomp are multi-effects.
Yeah.
And then Ventress and Volante.
Yeah.
You know.
And I just want to say one thing. Like, it'd be easy to listen to this conversation and just be like, if this were taken out of context and be like, whatever, those guys are, well, like, what does that prove? They have a bunch of digital stuff. That doesn't prove that their stuff sounds good. We have one of the consistently best sounding YouTube channels on the internet. I firmly 100% believe that. Like, go search the Tone Junkie YouTube channel for bad tone.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist. Like, I don't. Sure, maybe that sounds arrogant or something, but I really do believe like the sound we get to the listener is consistently great. The profiles are great, but it speaks volume about the Kemper, and like it's consistently great getting to the user. It sounds like a professional setup because we make these profiles using preamps and mics and everything that you would use to record guitars for a record, you know? It's not a 57 or just a 9, I mean, which can sound fine. A 906 can sound fine. Like the Pedal Show guys use 906s on all their stuff, I believe. It sounds great. We've talked about this. If I had to have one mic on my amp, I'd probably choose a 906 every time. 906, I've lately been liking the 7B on one of the IRs I made if it's just by itself.
Great. Yeah.
But I'll take a Fathead and a 57 or a Royer and a 57, a 906 and some ribbon, you know, kind of any day of the week. But it's easy to not even fool with it. I wouldn't set up a mic. Listen, how many... I'm trying to think how many mic. There's 10 microphones sitting on top of an amp in my other room there. There's a whole room to keep them quiet in this other room. Like I built a room in a room.
Yeah.
There's the cords are all run, like everything. Well, they're just running on the floor right now. But, you know, there's preamps. Like the amount of knobs in that room, you were telling me one day. You're like, the amount of knobs is pretty crazy. There's no way I would want to set up the full thing every time to do a video. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I don't feel like I'm we ever really sacrifice sound quality.
Yeah.
Because the Kemper's so easy to plug in.
Yeah. In the last year, I've had, on that note, I've had this experience too, where I've walked in, I've you know, have had the privilege of playing on different, you know, recordings and releases and stuff recently, and walking into studios, and I always bring the Kemper, and I've had this changeover now where, like, when I first would do that, I had a couple engineers look at me like, okay, like, we'll use that if we get stuck, but, like, we'll definitely start with, like, amps and mics. I was like, great, you know, so, like, just plug into their stuff. You know, but slowly, like, I would use the Kemper on one track and then two, and then all of a sudden, so this last one I did, it's 15 songs, all Kemper. And then I did another one that was 4 songs, all Kemper. None of those projects had any real amps at all on them from me. And I'm sitting there listening back to the mixes going, I can't sound better than that. Like if I had an amp and a mic and all that and all
You'd
the
fight
pedal
to
board,
get that sound.
I would be happy to get that sound.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to surpass it in any way, you know. And I think the only difference would be that I played better or wrote better parts.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm at the point now where the gear is not holding me back in any way. It's just delivering the tones I bring, you know, to the project, you know, which is so freeing when you talk about all the cabling and all the stuff that it takes to do all that. I'm there with one unit, you know. And so anyway, so with the Stomp, I've got it situated. I figured out a way to use that on its own and you helped me think about this, and with the Kemper.
Yeah.
And the way I've done that is to place it in between my drives on the right and my delay and reverb on the left, and so, because you brought up a great point I never thought of, but the Kemper is placing its delays and reverbs after the amp anyway, and so you said, why not just run the stomp, and instead of trying to get everything in that and send that to front of house, just send that into your delay and reverb pedals and then just go out of those to front of house, know. And as soon as I did that, it placed the stomp right at the center of my board, which is exactly where I would want it to be running into the Kemper.
Right.
Because now it can do modulation, it can do drive, it can do delay, and it's right in that in-between spot where it's right where I'd want a drive to be. It's right before where I'd want, like a tremolo or like a chorus or something. It's right there.
Yeah.
And so I've used it on a couple weekends where it's been my all-in-one. Don't even have the Kemper. It's, packed away.
That's what's great about the Stomp. You can just have one sort of preset that's like for use with an amp or with the Kemper as just an effects unit. And then you can have another preset where it's like, I still could use my full pedal board, but now my amp tones are coming out of here.
Right. Basically, I get more effects if I use the Kemper, and so I've got a patch called As Pedal Board, and I just turn that on if I'm going to use it like a pedal board. And it's basically the HX effects, so I've got 6 effects. I can use 3 of the buttons, and there you go, And so that's been very cool. Like the times I've used that with the Kemper, I think I've got tremolo, chorus, and then a reverb. And so like now I'm using the Ventress. It sounds great. I've got whatever dialed in on there, but then I can hit that, whatever, the stomp verb, and just adds into my signal. It's before my Volante, which kind of gives the reverb delay reverb sound, kind of real washy. And then when I want it off, I just flip it off and I'm back to where I was. I don't have to program a bunch of stuff and make sure every patch is like that. It's just whenever I want it, it's there. So I used to run an M9. I know you had one, or still do, maybe.
I still do. Yeah. It's still on the shelf up there. It's a great pedal.
Yeah, and so I can run it like an M9 on my board or an H9 or something like that. Or I can leave the Kemper at home and just go out of my Ventress into front of house. And it's like on that matchless setting, I think we had some IRs on there or whatever, like I'm happy as a clam. Like it sounds great, you know? So, and that's the beauty of having a board like that, is that either way I go direct, it's just different, but it sounds good. Yeah.
We're going to put out some of those matchless channel 2, some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
For the Stomp and the Helix.
Man, and those, hesitate to plug our stuff so hard, but like those IRs are good.
They really are. I just got a message from somebody I really respect today, kind of on well, he dabbles in a lot of worlds, I think, but saying I'm really impressed with these IRs.
Yeah.
And I was like, great. Dan Lombardi sent me a message. He was like, what do you say? It made my night. He was like, how did you just like decide to make an IR and you make like the best ones I've tried yet? I'm like, I don't know. All I did was mic it up the way I mic up the profiles. I don't know. I think I don't know if there's anything really special about the Tone Junkie IRs. They're just straightforward, and I think they sound how those mics sound. Rather than there being 1,000 variants.
That was my thing with the Ownhammer stuff, and some of the like the Rosin. I tried a couple of the Celestian ones. The
Celestian ones are like caricatures of what those things sound like. Yeah,
they're a bit exaggerated, like in those directions. Yeah, it was not overwhelming to open the files, like when you sent me the IRs, and I just turned them on. It was like, well, that sounds good, and that sounds good. I felt a little bit, and with the Ownhammer stuff, like with there being like 100 versions of like one cab. Yeah. Trying to weed through, like, what do I put in there?
It's option paralysis.
Yeah.
You can't give someone that many choices.
Right.
It's not, there's more options than the Taco Bell menu. Like.
Are you a Taco Bell guy?
Sure.
What's your poison there?
Man, when I was young, I used to do the Mexi Melt a lot.
Dude.
I mean, the Mexi Melt is a classic. A lot of people,
small.
It's small. A lot of people don't know about it, but if you are ever getting a soft taco at Taco Bell,
just try subbing one of them out for them.
You're a peasant. Kings are eating Mexi Melts. I mean, you've got to update.
You're right on the money.
You've got to update to the 3 cheese Mexi Melt.
Right.
There's 3 types of cheese in there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got you'll change. It'll change.
What time is Taco Bell close?
I know. We're going to go after this. But we should do a post podcast from the car. Just with a... So that would be really good. Let's do that, actually. We'll do a post Taco Bell podcast. Just driving over there.
The Mexi Melt.
We'll just do it on the phone.
Okay.
We'll just do a little podcast. We'll just do a little Taco Bell review. We should go get our favorites, talk about it, and then go get something new as well.
And just tack it on to the end of this thing.
No, we'll just do a completely
like
separate
a whole
episode.
Nother.
Just an audio-only episode.
Right.
There you go. That'll drive
That's necessary.
That's necessary.
Sure.
You got to have those.
Wow.
Mexi Melt, I got into quesadillas for a while.
Yeah.
But I kind of at first was like quesadilla without that sauce they put on. Then I grew up, got into the sauce.
Is that like the pink kind of like creamy like kind of thing?
Yeah. And then the quesarito, the sriracha quesarito was so delicious, and now they got rid of it. Mm-hmm. It's just the quesarito. But I'd say, an all-time favorite of mine has been the beefy 5-layer burrito.
Really?
It was 89 cents. I think it's up to $1.09 now. I really don't go to Taco Bell much anymore because they don't really have any keto options.
If you had to eat there, like fully abiding with keto, what would you get?
Like a taco bowl or like a salad. They have like taco salads where they put all the stuff.
Is cheese like a no-go?
Cheese is okay on keto.
Okay.
Most paleo people don't eat dairy, and a lot of people don't eat dairy, and probably dairy's not.
But like beans and rice and chicken and lettuce. Like, are these all...
The beans and rice are carbs, so we'd stay away from that a bit. But that's why taco salad, you could just get it. It might have beans on it, but it's going to have meat, cheese, kind of like salsa, sour cream, lettuce.
Lots of lettuce, salsa, and chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or beef, any meat.
Crunchwrap Supreme. That's all I'm going to say.
I heard someone say, does anyone have a substitute for like meaningful relationships and like life fulfillment? The number one comment was, have you tried the Crunchwrap Supreme?
Dude, that's incredible. Yeah.
This was like the number one.
Yeah.
This was like the number one comment on a YouTube channel, or I don't know, a tweet or something, and it was tens of thousands of likes.
They're very good. Throw some sauce in there.
The Crunchwrap. Do you remember when they started doing the waffle taco?
Oh yeah.
Do they still have that?
No, I think that was on the rotating. Like recently now, they've got the steak, French fries, and jalapeno burrito. It's like
a California style.
It's like a rattlesnake, I think they call it, because it's so hot.
It's like a California style burrito with the French fries inside.
It's got the French fries in there, man, and it's...
Really?
I love that.
Yeah.
Like the hot, like spicy, like steak.
How good, like, does any fast food joint have as good desserts as Taco Bell?
Oh yeah, I think they do. I'm not really a dessert guy at Taco Bell.
Those crispy cinnamon twists?
When I was like 8.
Okay.
I mean, I'm open to anything. Like,
those are delicious. Also, I'm a big fan of the caramel apple empanada.
Never had.
Delicious.
I'm just
what? So, who has better desserts?
A Sonic.
Okay, well, Sonic is
Oreo,
Sonic. Sonic is
peanut butter.
No. But those are shakes. That's not like dessert. That's a different discipline.
The different categories?
Well, that's like because. That's more like when Sonic goes that far into drinks, which I get. That's almost like you're getting into ice cream. That's like Baskin Robbins. Like a different. That's not fast food.
But that doesn't belong in a conversation about dessert.
Burger places can have milkshakes. Yes, of course. I'm saying Sonic. Yes, of course. That stuff's better.
Okay,
like Sonic
so you're with me.
Yes, but I'm not. I guess I'm not even. Sonic is fast food, but I was considering more like Burger King, McDonald's.
Okay, the
Jack
McDonald's
in the Box.
sundae is also delicious.
That is delicious.
It's got the caramel, the nuts that you pour on top. And
okay.
It's like $1.
Yeah, I'm about ready to retract my statements on Taco Bell dessert being better than other things.
Sticks are fine.
But hang on, I would just say it is. I really enjoy their dessert.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm back in.
You're back in. All right. Well, think outside the bun.
I love dessert.
Yeah, me too, man. Have you tried that new Ruby Sunshine place in Franklin in the Square? It's like New Orleans inspired breakfast and brunch. The coffee's good. It's not Cafe Du Monde good, like that famous coffee they have there. And there's no, there's no chicory in the coffee, which is a Louisiana thing. But the breakfast stuff, like if you get their cinnamon, like I got their cinnamon French toast. What do they call it? Batons.
Is this like a keto cheat day?
This is a keto cheat day. Cinnamon French toast batons.
Okay.
So it was like this thick brioche bread sliced in the shape of like what would only be described as like a giant Lincoln log covered in sugar and everything. Then they stacked it like a Lincoln log log
so they're
cabin.
working the Lincoln log thing. Okay.
It was so sweet I couldn't eat it. You added syrup to that, and it was
why even?
Each bite was like diabetes on a fork.
Do you remember when you went to Andy's after my house that one night for dinner, and you couldn't even
it? I threw it away. That's what happens, man. When you go so for the last 4 weeks, I've been doing pretty much low to no carb, but it's been low. Like I've been having some sugar. Mm-hmm. Every 3 or 4 days or so, I'll have something with some sugar, and I'm offsetting that by not eating as much fat on the keto thing. So I'm almost have transformed into some sort of a paleo, like really like a paleo thing, where it's not fat heavy. It's just no carb. But and it's not working. I really have not lost any more weight. Which is why I need to get serious.
Right,
it turns out you can't cheat on a diet and expect that still to work.
Right.
So
I'm just starting eating whatever I want. Wow.
But yeah, when I had tried that Andy's frozen custard, which is a St. Louis thing apparently, I had not had. I don't think I'd had any real sugar. I mean, maybe I licked a popsicle. I mean, I don't know. Nothing had been.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd had any real sugar in probably over 10 weeks, 12 weeks maybe. I mean, it was getting on a solid.
Yeah. The disparity between no sugar at all and that was too big.
I had to throw it away.
Sure.
Oh, it was so bad.
Like it didn't even taste good, probably.
I think too, like what hurt me was knowing that this was something that I loved. You know what I mean?
Right, and had
I would liken it to imagine you grow up and move away, and when you come back, you get back together with all your friends, and you don't have anything in common anymore.
They're just terrible.
And you realize, well, that's not even their fault. Yeah. They just are what they are, man.
Right.
But you just realize, you've grown apart. And, what you had. You'll never have it again.
But it's over now.
Yeah. Although, once I kept eating some sugar, I could probably eat Andy's now. But
that'll be my goal.
But I'm back on a no sugar thing.
Okay.
But we have to do this Taco Bell thing.
I'm going to work you back up to that level where we could get Andy's together.
We have to do this Taco Bell thing, though, now.
I'm down, man.
I was hoping you were going to say, you have to get home, so I got to have an excuse.
Oh, no. There's a couple other things I think that we could just mention.
Go ahead, please, yeah.
I don't even know how long we've been going.
Oh, I'm not even worried about that.
Some of these podcasts have been pretty epic in length.
Absolutely. I can always make a part 1 and 2. I mean, I won't, but I could.
That's true. I know that you don't edit, which is awesome.
I hate it. Have I ever left stuff in that I said I'm going to edit that out?
No, I always hear you say it. There was a great one with Stu. He's like, "You'll edit that out." You're like, "Nah, I'm not.
No, I won't.
I'm not going to do that."
Like, listen, I got stuff to do. Okay, I'm not going to go listen to this tomorrow morning, edit it out and stuff. Come on.
Okay, so one thing is, there's just been this weird thing. Actually, I just thought of a third thing. I'll blaze through these.
Take your time.
So one of the things was one of my friends. So I sold some gear. We'll try to tie these together. I sold some gear when we were saving up for a house, for down payment and everything. Yeah. So I sold my Matchless 3015, which we profiled. Yeah. I love that amp. Played it for 10 years. That was my sound. I'll never sell this amp. There it goes. Sold. And then the Nocaster, custom shop, Telly. Loved that thing. Moved out here. It was my number one. I played it in that band and from California and everything. like bury me with this guitar. Like I love this thing.
Yeah.
Sold that.
Right.
You know, so like all of these things. So like a lot of my friends back in California, like, what are you doing? Like these like two things were you, and like
this is you.
Now you play like, you know, a Sir and like a Kemper. Like what happened to you?
Who are you, Sooze?
And I was like, HW happens. You know, and so
when I was posting those videos of Stu G, I was thinking, man, I guess I really do rub off on people. This guy's got a Sir.
He's got the white Sir. Yes. Right. People come in contact with you.
I got to get some floral on him.
Hey, but for the sake of this podcast, who got you on the Kemper?
For the sake of the podcast, so you can take credit for getting me into the Kemper. I do kind of give. You had been telling me about the Kemper and I didn't care.
Okay, like I brought mine over. You're like, great, you know.
I don't even know if you had brought it.
Did we play it on one of those nights?
You did. It's possible you brought it over one night and we didn't even play it.
You were really into the amps, I think, at that point.
I was really into the amps.
Yeah.
My moment was playing with that guy. I think you had shown it to me, and I was like, that's cool. But then the moment where I was like, whoa.
Like in a live setting.
Yeah, because we didn't have an FR here or something.
Right,
so I don't even know that we tried it or what we did. What did we do? I think you told me about it. You told me about Mark. You told me about the Chieftain that's in the stock profiles.
Yes, okay.
But, you know, I was probably like, oh, yeah, check out this. Check out this compressor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that, like, you know.
It was under my nose.
You're just like the Kemper guy now, but like I was there first. I just love that. Right. I put it in my pocket.
It's true. It's true.
Okay, so I did this thing, you know, where I sold the amp and I sold the guitar and everything like that. And so I just had a conversation with my buddy, and he's like, do you miss the Nocaster? And this is the first point. Lately, I was out on a gig in Florida, and I impulse bought a Squier Telly, like a Squier Bullet Telly. It cost me $135.
Right, yeah.
Right, which is like less than, like a Timmy. Mm-hmm. And the other day that was the guitar I played, you know, to get these are my top 30 profiles with this sound or whatever. I played it for over an hour straight and went through all this stuff. I put it down and I was like, I'm pretty sure at this point I like that Squier Telly as much as my $2,000 Nocaster. And it bewildered even me, you know, and I think, like, thinking about why, I think at this point, like, I've made this shift over to, like, playability, and that was my big thing, and I think you even mentioned it to me, and I know John did, is the Nocaster didn't play great. Mm-hmm. It was 7 1/4 radius. I couldn't really play. I'm a lead player a lot of times. It was a little tough to play. The neck was, I'd like a big neck, but now that I've got this little Squier thing, I'm like, man, I play better on it. I feel better on it. It's super comfortable. The pickups sound great. I made the shift over to like how a guitar makes me feel in response to how I play versus I like the look of it or the sound of it or like all these other things. Like my experience playing it is as good. It may even be better on the whole, especially if I put new pickups in there or whatever. Like now it becomes something that like I would be proud to play that anywhere because it's like, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with the price as much as it is like I'm bonding with that guitar.
Totally.
But I let go of a guitar that I played for a long, long time thinking I would never sell it. You know, so I'm in this weird spot. Yeah. You know, and the other thing was about the matchless. Like they said, you missed playing the matchless. And my first thought was like, I miss sitting, what I used to do sometimes, so I would just go onto our worship center stage and I would just like empty auditorium and I would just sit in a chair and crank the amp and just play.
What a beautiful way to use an amplifier.
It was just blasting at me like super loud and like hit some effects and just like, you know, do my thing or whatever. I was like, I miss that. Yeah. But I don't miss playing with one or like practicing with one or trying to like make it work in a little room. Like there's so many things I don't miss about it, but that one thing like I do miss about it, you know. And so like that was an interesting thought process for me too, is like to say like, you know, certain experiences with an amp were great, but my normal use case is recording and playing live, and it didn't hit either one of those boxes for me, you know. I'm just in this weird spot. I'm thinking about buying I've played your the blue JM Pro so much, and I always want to borrow it, and like and now I'm thinking like, okay, I might need to let some stuff go to get myself a JM Pro, because I listened back to demos. I'm like, man, that thing sounds good. Like a lot of comments about like, what is this guitar? It sounds incredible. And I've got that white Sir, which I got from you, which is incredible. It's got the Thornbuckers, the Telly, yeah. And
which gets a ton of comments. I get there's consistently comments whenever we do demos with that guitar. What is that guitar?
Yeah.
Where did you get that? What model, sir, is that? It's like, that's a Sooze model.
Yeah, basically, which is actually, without even trying to, like, it's like a signature, like, that's what I wanted, was the Telecaster with the Thornbuckers with the trem, you know, and it's awesome. I mean, to me... It
came right to you.
Right there.
It really did, yeah.
And that was the big deciding factor in selling the Nocaster, was I've got these two high-end guitars. I can only keep one for the time being, and so... I love playing the Sir. I never reach for the Nocaster. Easy decision, you know. So yeah, I mean, but now I'm thinking of adding another Sir, like next to the, you know, to have the white Telly and the JM Pro, you know. So it's kind of like these opposite things are happening, where it's like the Squire is really doing it for me, which was, you know, 1/20th of the, you know, of the cost, you know. And so like I mentioned it to John too, and he was saying, don't you think there's like a $300 version of a JM Pro that you could get that, you know, that would be like similar to the Squire versus Nocaster? Like, why are you looking at a, you know, $2,000 JM Pro?
Yeah.
You know, part of my thinking is I don't think you have to spend a lot on a Telecaster. It's such a simple design. Right. Like, you know, all the stuff. I think there's a little bit of finesse with the JM thing, with getting the trem right and getting like those pickups, like the S90 pickups versus what's in most Jazzmasters. Right. Very different, you know. Right. And I don't have a P90 guitar. I don't know if you know that, but I don't have a single one out of the 10 or so that are in my possession.
Wow, you're right. Yeah. Wow, I'm thinking about it right now. I was about to say you have that Telly, but those are Filtertrons in there.
Got a lot of Filtertrons, a lot of single coils, humbuckers. Got a couple humbucker guitars. Yeah. But you and Michael Britt, P90 is the best pickup ever. I don't have one. So
they really are.
I think I'm talking myself into it.
And I'll say this about the Surs. They don't have the most vintagey sound, you know, but Michael Britt has replaced the magnets in his, and to me then it sounds a little more vintagey, which is always an option for people. He doesn't know. He put in A3 magnets or A2s. Okay. He doesn't know what he took out, because he doesn't know what the ones are he took out.
Have you heard that guitar?
Yeah. It sounded like my JM Pro, like a little more vintagey top end, a little more like Stratty high end. Okay. I would consider changing mine.
His is a Strat.
It's a small. No, his is a JM Pro.
Oh.
His JM Pro is what I mean. Yeah, he took the magnets out, changed the magnets on those pickups. It's not a big difference. Yeah. You know, it's not a big difference at all. And I love my JM Pro, so I've never considered really changing it.
There's a local one for a good price in the gold.
You need to get it.
With the 510. I think I'm going to...
You have to get it.
Figure out a way.
And then we're going to roast the neck. I'm going to get a blowtorch and we're going to roast the neck.
Man, can we do it on one of yours? Since you have like 8 of them.
To try it out?
Yeah.
I only have 2. People always think I have people think I have a ton of Sir guitars. Do you know how many I own right now?
Hold on. 3.
I own 3 and a Rasmus, which was their short-lived input. No, man, I had that on some videos down sounding pretty good.
I watched them. Was it good?
How much do you think I paid for that guitar?
$800.
$600.
Really?
That's why I don't want to sell it.
Is it a Sir guitar?
It was made by, if you look at the bag, it says made in China for Sir. Okay. Or it says like to specification Sir. Mm-hmm. And then they took it. They brought them here. They're actually great deals. Here's why. They only did 1 run, I think, maybe 2. They brought them from China. The wood is all made in China. The frets are put in China. They bring it here. They put in real Sir pickups, a real Godot 510. I don't know where those tuners came from, if they put them here or not, but they're not the normal tuners. But they function like the normal tuners, but you can see they're just a different manufacturer or something. Mm-hmm. They are the same shape and have the same pickups as a Sir Modern. Okay, so they did that. Now, when they got it here, though, the reason they didn't do any more after this was they said there were too many issues with frets, with the necks not being straight or whatever. So what did they do? They fixed them all here. So they went back over the frets, did it all, and then they said, we can't do this anymore because we're going to lose money. We're not making enough money on these guitars. We have to do too much work once they hit the States.
Right.
So that means all the Rasmuses floating around are Chinese wood made in China, brought here.
Fixed in
and
America.
Then some guy in the Sir factory, when he's putting on all the hardware, they had to fix all the frets. So I say if you find them, now, they go for $900 to $1,200 all day long, and 900 would be a good deal.
So you stole that one.
Mine had a bunch of damage on the front
because
it was like dented on the front, and the lacquer started chipping off. I don't care, and they're hard to find. Like once I bought that, I didn't see one on Reverb for 2-3 months. There might be one right now, but what Sir came out with after that was the those satin moderns. They have a Strat, they have a Telly and a Strat. They're moderns like that, but it's just like a satin finish on a guitar, so no finish. So what they've decided is, well, instead of getting it all finished and stuff in China, we want a lower priced model that's sort of not the vintagey thing, and so it's just like exposed wood, unfinished, just kind of satin wood, and those are cool, but they look super plain.
Okay.
But they just make the wood, no finishing, so it cuts down on labor there, and then they're still doing the American setup and everything on them. Which those are killer guitar too. If you just want a bang for your buck, Sir, one of those all satin modern Tellys or Strats, it's more on the modern side, of course.
Right.
But in terms of setup, it's made in the same place, same build sheet, same everything. They're just not finishing the bodies.
Huh. Would you call that the best deal in the guitar verse?
I'm not that into them because I'm not that into the pickups.
Okay.
They're pretty specific pickups, meaning you get an SSV in the neck and then an SSH in the bridge.
Okay.
At that point, you're pretty rocking. For our purposes, 2 SSVs is already pretty rocking.
Even more modern and like aggressive or like...
These are really... Yeah. I mean, they're taking that SSV, putting it in the neck. That's supposed to be like the vintagey sounds in it.
Okay.
So it's a different guitar completely. Or a different sound. What was the other things you were going to bring up?
I did the Squire. I did the Matchless.
Yeah. So you're going to
JM Pro.
You're going to end up with one of the sweetest Sir Tellys with double thornbuckers and a trem. We're only aware of one. I've never seen any others.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of Sir guitars. I don't believe there's a Sir guitar that's been up on Reverb in the last 24 months that I haven't looked at thoroughly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was custom ordered by that shop in California, and
was it custom ordered by that?
Yeah,
well, they had it.
They had a build sheet that was for them. I mean, it had their name on it. Like they ordered it like that.
Why was it so cheap?
Well, we didn't buy it from them.
Oh, we bought it from
Someone else had it.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think they knew what they had.
I don't think they knew what they had because they could have charged $2,500, and I would have bought it still.
Yeah, it was definitely a shop order.
Wasn't it 19 or 1950?
Yeah. No brainer.
No brainer. Dude, no brainer. And the neck
and
on the thing is awesome. Is it a roasted neck?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Roasted.
I forgot it is a roasted
maple thornbuckers with the trim. The cream with the blackguard. Gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And so if I can score a good deal on this gold JM Pro, it's like those two. Well, it's like, what am I grabbing the most now to play at church? It's like those two guitars would be like, I mean, kind of it for a while.
What else would you need? I mean, you don't need anything else. It's hard to even want anything else. Of what you've got, I mean, there's still room for the Sparkle Jet. That does a thing.
Sure, yes.
That does a thing. That's always
that would probably be the third one for me to round it out. And like, if you said, what are your top guitars right now, it would be those three. And I don't even have the JM
you
Pro.
don't even have that one.
But
and then what about you've got the Aria. Do you have an Aria?
No. The Agile.
The Agile.
Yeah, I like that.
It's just for a Les Paul.
I like having it around for a Les Paul sound. I've used it on a couple demos or whatever, but I don't like playing church with it. And then the Jazzmaster, okay, I love that classic player. Jazzmaster. It sounds great.
And then what about the Strat?
Same as the Agile. I love using it for tracks, and like, you know, nothing will do that Strat sound. Mm-hmm. You know, like it has to be a Strat.
So now you're up to 6 guitars.
Well, am I? So it's the White Sir, the Agile, the Strat, the
Sparkle.
Jazzmaster. Well, the Sparkle's not really mine, but it's basically
Come on,
mine.
it's been, how long has it been loaned to you?
Over a year.
Over a year. Toby's not asking
Thank
for it
you,
back.
Toby. I mean, the Cabernita.
Do you think Toby is listening an hour and a half into this podcast?
No. I don't think he's listening 3 minutes into this podcast. I love you, Toby. Dude, the Cabernita, like, that's a great guitar as well.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
We get a lot of comments, too, when I play that. What is that? Like, how does it sound like that good? You know, it's like, that's a great guitar.
It's just got Gretsch Filtertrons.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And the neck is real comfortable, and it plays good.
Double volume.
Yeah, volume. And then there's the Gretsch, which I'm thinking about letting go. The hollow body.
I support that.
Yeah, that's not one I grab a lot, you know, to play.
I kind of remember I was there with you when you bought it, and it seemed impulsy.
Totally.
Is that a word?
Oh yeah, I mean, so was the Squire.
Yeah, but the Squire was how much?
It was $135.
$135.
Yeah.
The Squire is the cost of an overpriced dinner for 2.
Sure, yeah. Uh-huh.
You know? I've had $130 dinner bills and been like, you know what? That really wasn't worth it.
Like, I'm going to eat at Gray's for that much money. You know? And it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and you know.
Can we use that? We need to use it in a demo coming up.
Sure.
You know, just to
absolutely.
kind of... And part of it is to show people, like, let's not judge guitars by, like, the name on the headset. You know, it's like, I think you're going to hear this guitar and be like, that sounds really good. You know, like, at the end of the day, it sounds awesome.
I've got a Tone Master coming up, Fender Tone Master head.
Oh, yeah.
And a CJ11.
What did we just shoot today?
Divided by CJ11. That was the 2-stone crystal.
That sounded good.
Or the 2-rock crystal. But I spelled crystal like that disgusting little burger chain.
Like the burger.
Yeah.
I've not had those. I've had White Castle.
Crystal Burgers was the second food in my life that I threw away, and the first one that I spit out.
Mid-bite, like spitting it out. Good gracious.
Spit out as I drove away from the drive-thru wanting to try it.
Like hungry. Like I want food.
Oh, yeah. Spit it out. Drove up just to the little garbage can next to the restaurant, threw it away, went next door to the Jack in the Box, and just ordered food there.
When Jack in the Box is a step up.
When Jack in the Box is step up, you must be at Crystal.
Wow.
That'll
preach.
That bad. The other time was at a terrible burrito place in the Nashville airport. First time I visited here, the guy said, he made me a burrito, and he said, and I quote, "You want some pico de gallo with that?"
Coming from San Francisco, where we have mission burritos.
Yeah. I was like, I think...
I'm surprised you moved here after that.
Yes.
What have I gotten myself into?
That was 2 years before I moved here.
Wow.
So that was when I came here with a band and played a little battle of the bands for Word Records.
That was 2 years ago? Oh, no, that was 2 years before you moved.
2 years before I moved here, yeah. So this was...
But still pretty recent.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 3 years before I moved. It was years before I moved here.
What was the band?
It was a band called Inner Sunset. I've talked about it on this podcast, and someone tracked down the music.
I think I'll be doing that later at Taco Bell.
I think I've showed you this. I'll show you in the car. It's on Spotify. I think Apple Music owes me $70 from the streams.
Which is like a ton of money for streaming.
Wait, I'm sorry. It's not Apple Music. CD Baby owes me $70 for CD sales. And like iTunes downloads.
Okay.
I don't know what they owe me for streaming.
Dude, how much Taco Bell could that buy you?
$70? A ton. Technically, I own that to 3 other bandmates, but I don't think anyone's looking for that money, to be honest.
You could split Taco Bell with them.
Yeah. One guy's a lumberjack now in Oregon. He was the bass player.
That's legit.
He had these long arms. Dude looked like a gorilla for real.
Bass player?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Long arms.
Yeah.
His name was Derek. And hasn't updated his Facebook photo in like 15 years. I don't even know if I knew him for 15 years, but still the same Facebook profile photo as when I met him. And I just, something weirds me out about that.
Does he like actively use Facebook?
No, but I know he goes out like every now and then.
Just check in.
Yeah.
Can't be bothered to change my profile.
Yeah. But really long arms. Freakishly long arms. Like the kind of guy who's standing up normal and then you're like, that looks like a normal guy. Except that his hands, like his wrists, are down to his knees.
Big hands?
Yeah. Big hands,
yeah,
big
I can see
arm,
that.
like long
I bet
arms.
he was a monster bass player.
He had a really good... He had a power stance.
There it is.
It was a powerful stance.
Sure.
And he wore hemp shoes.
Oh.
And he could play a keyboard upside down. And the reason I know that is because in our set, he would play a keyboard upside down.
Like it's facing you, but I play it like that?
The band started and I played bass, and it was a 4-piece. And it was just us making challenging music because we were playing worship music on Sundays. And so it was a keyboard guy, a guy on acoustic who would sing and stuff and
Is
play
this the
electric.
math rock one? Like that was like super complicated, like
It wasn't so complicated, but it was kind of progressive.
Okay.
We did a little I did a guitar solo with a scat solo with like a scat singing over.
That's the one.
Yeah.
You told
it
me
was just
that.
like stuff, we would use synths and stuff. But the thing is like we really wrote these songs while making the record. So how to do them live was like impossible.
Right.
And in the middle of making the record, it was like I should be the guitar player. Mostly because it was like I should play the guitar because I'm adding so many guitar parts. Right. I shouldn't play bass. So I'm going to teach this guy my bass parts, which half the record is clearly like, well, what is that bass doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm playing like a guitar player.
Right.
I'm like arpeggiating a D major 7 on the bass, which is like,
we just talked about this. The best bass players don't play guitar.
Yeah.
They just play bass.
But so then when I would show him these bass lines, he'd be like, how did you write that? And I'd be like, I'm a guitar player. I'm needlessly busy.
It's actually not a bass part.
Yeah,
it's a guitar part.
These are just thicker strings.
Right.
These are just thicker strings.
Yeah. What the song really needs now is a bass part.
Yeah. So, and then I was like, we're going to need me to do these other guitar parts and to play some keyboard parts. And then the lead singer was doing keys, and he also needed to play an acoustic, so we had an acoustic on a stand. And he would just throw his SG behind his back.
Walk up to it?
Oh, yeah. It would just be a stand there with a second microphone.
I love that.
And he would just walk up to it. And there was also and then we had one song, I've got to have some footage live somewhere, where our drummer, who was also a great keyboard player, would just he would move his floor tom and pull up a keyboard. And then he would play hi-hat and bass drum, hi-hat and bass drum, and one hand on the drums, and then play chords over here. And he would play a glockenspiel, like glockenspiel sounds.
To go back in time and see you guys live.
Dude, I'm sure I have some footage. And then towards the end of it, after we did the first little EP, we were getting ready to do the second one, and I started singing some songs, and the other guy would jump onto, some other. But there were some parts where, what would happen? Oh, our keyboard, the drummer this song would like stop in the beat and it would keep going. Mm-hmm. And then the drummer would walk over to the lead singer's synth and start playing the synth over this acoustic guitar and vocal part. Because like the song breaks down. And then it would be, the drummer would leave his drums and go up where the singer was and start playing the synth he had been playing. Mm-hmm. And that meant there was no drummer. And so then once that part was done, the synth part would keep going. The lead singer would walk back to the drums and just start putting boo-boo, boo-boo on the floor.
Yeah.
Boo-boo, and then it would start building back up. And then the bass player would stop playing the bass and start playing this. He would start playing the drummer's keyboard upside down.
There it is.
It was just
showmanship.
It became part of the show.
Yeah.
But at first, in the garage, it was just like, how many parts on the record can we cover? And then it became like, if you're going to do that,
I got
and then it literally became like, I could just reach over and
sure.
hit the octave, right? And that's all he was playing. And then it was like, and then we wrote a song where it was like, where I think from the very beginning, the drummer was like, I'm going to play keys and play the drums on this song.
Wow.
And then we did that. And then I don't know, I was like, why don't we do a scat solo? They were like, what's scat? And I was like, yeah, it's like, da 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 da. You just sing with the guitar,
Yeah.
Why not?
We're definitely watching this at Taco Bell.
I don't know if I have footage, but I've got the record.
Wow.
To talk about, I am proud of the tones on that record, I'll say. And all of them is an orange AD30 with just a deluxe memory man and either my black SG or this American Strat I had. And there's some good tones.
The memory man doing a lot.
A lot.
Covering chorus, I'm sure, and
doing a lot.
Vibrato and delay and reverb.
A lot of delay. A lot of runaway analog.
Spaceship?
Feedback. Oh, yeah. Ton of that. Yeah. Ton of that. And then some of it sort of embellished in Pro Tools. Like more of it added for like the end of a song. It's running away and stuff, which I didn't really do in the studio totally, Wow. I mean, we would do it, but then, the producer would get a hold of it. The producer was also the drummer. Although you couldn't see from the live stage show that he had produced the record. It was good. I'll tell you what I think, and I know I'm just talking about my old band here, but I remember writing for the second record. We never ended up doing that record. And I remember the guys saying, I could see they were going to a different place in their life. Two of them were having kids, and I was wanting to play more, and they were not wanting to play more. We sold out the makeout room twice. We're making like good money. And I was like, you guys, do you know how lucky we are? Like we're playing this club. They're giving us, I think they gave us 70% of the door, which is a lot. Like you don't get that, but this wasn't a big club.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of a popular local bar. And it was standing room only. You couldn't get in. And we made like $650 and paid out to like the opener, who I had just called. They were a band from LA.
Yeah.
And I was like, come up. And they were like, how much is the gig? And I was like, I don't know. We'll give you like $300. And we made their $300 plus our $650. Plus they gave us some free beer ticket, drink tickets.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, do you know how lucky we are that there's like a bar that can house this many people that wants to come back and will give us 70% of the door? Like this doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, and then we played Bottom of the Hill in San Francisco, and that went well. And they were going to give us a weekend spot now opening for some people. And these guys they were just like,
they're just over it.
And I was like, I was so into like cutting my teeth at the time. Like, well, that'll just cut off there. The video just went off because I didn't plug in. We'll finish the podcast here. I was so into just cutting my teeth at the time that I would have played for no money, And I was borrowing my dad's van, my dad's company's van, loading it up with all this gear. Where do you think we'd go eat after the show?
Taco Bell?
Taco Bell.
There it is.
With a van full of stuff. And then just
like Kings.
Just unload it, get to bed at 3:50 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Full of Taco Bell.
Ours was Del Taco.
Of course.
Was it Del Taco in the...
They stretched up to like Central California, maybe Kettleman City. You could get that, maybe a little further.
When I was in that country band, it was always like 2 a.m. like Del Taco runs.
Yeah.
That's how you know it was a good gig.
Yeah.
Because like quesadilla, like chicken quesadilla, add jalapenos. Like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So wait for a minute. You are one of the few guys who probably played more country music before moving to Nashville.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What was that gig like? You were in a country band.
It was a country cover band.
Playing the Nocaster.
Playing the Nocaster and the
Shania
Strat
Twain?
every night. No, we had a dude singer. So
Sooze, you play no country licks for a guy who was in a country cover band.
I would also add to that I hardly ever played country licks in a country band because we played all like, top 40, like radio, like Luke Bryan. So all you have to know is power chords and rock music, and you can play these gigs. But yeah, I was also rhythm guitarist, you know, so like I laid down like the open A chord to the G, you know, and like everyone else would solo and stuff. But it was side money, and I played with a couple friends that I was already, you know, buddies with, and they invited me into the band, and we did great. I mean, the music was good, line dancers were happy, like it was just like a Southern California country line dancing subculture that was like kind of fun to be in, and we had good gigs. Like we played for some really big rooms and a lot of energy. I mean, it was fun, you know, and I made money doing it, but I was also working 3 jobs to like pay for California, you know, and so moving to Nashville meant I could have one job and be home at you know, see my kids.
Moving to Nashville means I don't have to play country music at 2 a.m. anymore.
That's just a California thing. Go figure, man.
Go figure.
Anyway.
Do you miss California ever?
Just the people. I know it's cliche, but like, if I can move them all out here, I'd never go back.
Your parents came.
My parents came. Shelly's parents came. They're in Columbia now.
So who do you want to?
It's all the, you know, the old band guys and the old church guys, and you know, I just want to put them all in a big moving van and have them live in Franklin, but
it might be like Andy's.
Not these people. These are good people. Yeah, high school friends, probably not, you know. But
I don't know, man. You know, people, like even people 3 years ago that I knew, people that I was really close to. Just, I remember this one chick telling her, she was like, keep in touch. And I was like, yeah, because we played it. We led together at a church for a couple of years. And we led this band together. The church had like 3 bands. So there were 2. There was one leader for one band, one for another. And then we were like, we need a 3rd band. Can you guys split it? You know. So she sang a bunch. I would sing, and she was like, "I'm gonna miss you so much." Blah 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 blah. We had this kind of older brother, little sister thing going on. And I remember telling her like, you know, you're going to meet the guy really soon that you're going to marry. And that person's going to be so important in your life. Like so important. Like you're going to meet this person. You're going to have all these years of dating them. You're going to get engaged. You're going to get married. They're going to be the most important person in your life. You're going to have kids. And I won't know any of that. And so I'm not going to know you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You'll be like HW.
She was like, we'll keep in touch. And I was like, of course. No, of course we'll keep in touch.
Right.
But it was like, but even if we keep in touch, you know, it was like.
It's not the same. Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's not all bad.
Maybe these dudes are just dudes who like guitar, though. Because sometimes it is the same.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got a bunch of buddies. It is the exact same. It doesn't. Nothing changes. It's the exact
and
same.
we still text all the time, mostly about gear and whiskey.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So.
Did I meet them? Or any of these guys that came out here last time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like Jared and I don't think Eric's been out, but yeah, just, you know, those guys, like friends that are circumstantial and friends that are like, you know, we had a class together, so we're friends.
Right.
We're friends. And then there's these friendships that like supersede that, you know, and
of course. No, it makes sense.
And are timeless, you know, and so like it's funny to see them like land in categories, you know, but.
Yeah, I think, I had this buddy who was like one of my closest friends and still is. He went away to college and then he was about to go away to college and he was like, one day was just like, well, I mean, if we hadn't lived so close together, would we be friends? And I was like, I mean, I wasn't just your friend because you were like in proximity. I thought we were really friends.
Right, yeah.
This guy always said dumb stuff. But we're still super close. Like, you know, he's a lifelong friend, of course. Yeah. He was just out here visiting. Well,
man, thanks for having me on. That was good.
This has been fun.
Yeah, sure.
I think we should do another one of these.
Yeah.
You got time right now?
Gosh.
Just kidding.
I think it's Taco Bell in bed.
bed. How long was that?
I don't know.
I mean, my son has a preschool. Can you see that clock over there?
Mm-mm.
My son has a preschool interview in the morning. You got to interview for preschools these days. It's very competitive out there.
No.
They don't actually reject you. At least I don't think, but I think they do screen you for like pretty apparent behavioral problems.
Oh.
Like, instead of having your parents pay some money and you showing up on day one and you like clearly have behavioral issues,
Right.
they would rather you come by the school
Let's do this beforehand.
for an hour.
Yeah.
Talk to the parents about what the school is like.
That's definitely something you start doing after it's
you
gone
realize,
awry
yes,
a couple times.
And then you just let this kid just go like hang out in the classroom with other kids his age.
Yeah.
And like listen to stories.
Trial run.
Yeah. And if he's not biting or kicking or
Lighting things
defecating
on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Then it's a pretty good chance we're going to be able to turn this one into a productive member of society. And if not, I don't. What happens to them? I don't know.
Well, they're not going to that school. That's for sure.
Not going to that school. That's for sure.
Homeschool? Maybe you got to find the school that doesn't screen the kids
Right.
and just be like, well, enjoy your first day.
It's public school. They have the burden of they've got to take everybody.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like with hospitals and stuff. You know, you know, for all the bad that like hospitals or public schools are great where we are. Mm-hmm. But you look at like, you know, the worst school in California is Crenshaw High School. It's very bad. 75% of the kids are foster kids. So of course it's a bad school.
They've got tough lives, you know.
And the school's got a tough situation.
Right.
Really tough situation.
Yeah.
They don't have a bunch of kids showing up ready to learn. You know?
Right.
There's not all these eager, well-behaved kids showing up.
This is Dangerous Minds, like
exactly. But you know, I don't know if Michelle Pfeiffer is going to save this one. That's why when they were doing those, that's one of the reasons they were striking in LA Unified. You know, was they want more money for a lot of these things, but one of the things they need is more. They can't have school. Because they need more counselors and they need more social workers in the school.
Right.
When you have a community of 75% of kids are foster kids and you're trying to give them social services and counseling during school hours.
It's more than half the school.
Yeah, it's not a high school anymore.
Yeah.
It's like something else you've created.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't think it's the school's fault. They get whoever the students are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's like a real breakdown in society happening over there. 75% of kids
That's nuts.
are foster kids.
Yeah.
Under some temporary custody, or they're with their parents, but the court is supervising.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really...
Or in a home or something.
Yeah. This is like really serious stuff, you know? How did we get on this topic?
I thought for sure we'd end on like Taco Bell or something, but...
What are you getting?
Dude, it really depends on what time it is.
It's 11:06.
Crunchwrap Supreme.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I've been HW.
Sooze.
HW out.